Heavenly Father, Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Bhagavan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, Blessed Gurudev, Paramahansaji, saints of all religions, we bow to you all. Divine Mother, thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the supreme goal that I seek. Om Shanti, Shanti, Amen. Sit down, take a seat. Love the sound of the rain. And it makes me think I'm in India. Doesn't it remind you of India? Pouring? How you like those rains when they come after the heat of India. Anything you want to talk about? Any questions?
Ma,
Huh?
a balanced life. This question keeps coming up, how we can lead a balanced life.
There is a thought that I want to express to you that has to do with that subject. Balance in life comes by practicing the principles of karma yoga. There's no other way. There's no other way that you can find peace of mind while you're carrying on your duties except by looking upon your life when you are performing your duties as a karma yogi, leaving the fruits in God's hands. Master used to say, always think that what you are doing for God. Now, thinking means you have to really believe that what you're doing for God. Every act is a dedication to God. I am really grateful that this consciousness is with me. It doesn't mean it makes it easy all the time, but everything I do, I really feel that I am doing to please God. And that's the attitude that you have to have in your work. You can't think, well, somebody's out to get me and he's giving me these hard tasks, or someone resents me so he's giving me extra hard work. Nobody's doing it to you. If you really believe that there is a power in this world, then you must really believe that that power has control over your lives. That's something I'm grateful for. If I'm sick or whatever happens to me, I firmly am convinced that that power is controlling my life. Nobody's doing anything to me that God does not permit them to do. Nobody can do anything to me. No condition can come into my life that God has not first permitted to come into my life. There has to be that belief that God is the one who is controlling my life. I always look at it this way. Look, nobody brought me into this world. God brought me into this world, nobody else. And nobody's going to take me out of this world. It's going to be God who takes me out of this world. He's the one, since He first created me, who has been looking after me every moment. Now, once you get that thought set in your mind, then it becomes much easier to believe that at every moment of your life, whether you're eating or drinking or meditating or serving or chanting or divinely loving, God is the one with whom you have to do. That is the first thought that the devotee should strive to place in his consciousness. In other words, begin to cultivate that direct relationship between yourself and God. Always think that what you are doing for God. I have practiced that in my life. I don't say these things to praise Dayama. I'm sure I will have to be given many more tests in order to prove this in my life, because no one ever arrives at a state where he's risen above all tests in life. But you have to think that whatever is given to you to do, God has had something to do with it. If you're asked to do something that seems impossible to do, face it. The important thing in life is to learn to face. Don't run away from any trial. Don't run away from any test. God is giving you that opportunity to grow in spiritual stature by whatever happens to you in life. Do you understand that point? That is following the path of Karma Yoga. I guess the reason it impresses me so much is because the last years of Master's life, he said to me, now you have to become a Karma Yogi. And I was terribly upset over that statement. That never appealed to me at all. The last path I would go after is the Karma Yoga path. So I thought, well, I better learn as much about it as I can if I have to follow it. So these thoughts are the thoughts that one dwells on a lot. I really do try to think every day, no matter what trial it is, well, Lord, you've put this before me. This wouldn't have come to me. It would have come to someone else. But it's come to me because you want me to learn something from it. That's a wholesome attitude. Never blame anyone for anything that comes to you. People who have problems are always saying somebody else is at fault for what happens to me. Don't look that way. It's more healthy to say, well, this has come to me, it's come through this individual, but how am I supposed to behave under this circumstance? What am I supposed to do? What is my attitude under this circumstance? That's a healthy attitude. The path of Karma Yoga is the path of uniting the little self, the soul, with God through selfless activity. Now, isn't that something to do with how do we balance our lives? When you are doing things for yourself, said Master, you are united with your limited ego. But when you act for God, you are identifying yourself with Him. One of the reasons why Master asked us to practice eating in silence is because when you're eating in silence, you can practice the presence of God. You can really think about God because you don't have to do anything else but chew food. So think about Him. Of course, I realize that when you're eating ice cream or candy, you're doing it for yourselves. Guruji goes on to say, perfection may be attained through Karma Yoga only provided that one dedicates all the fruits of his actions to God. Never be so much concerned. Do the best you can and leave the fruits in God's hands. That's a very good way to live, my dears. And if you're doing the best you can, it's bound to produce good fruit. It is important, said Master, to remember this point. Indeed, why should anyone think he has a right to the things of this world? He doesn't even know why he came on earth. He doesn't even know how he got here. And he doesn't even know when he's going to leave. Nor do we know where we will go when we leave it. We are utterly dependent upon God. So why wait until the end of life? Why not now begin to think? That was the marvelous spirit that Master instilled in us when he would tell us to sweep out of doors. We didn't do it bored. Suppose I tell you all to go out tomorrow and sweep. Half of you are going to be so bored with the idea of just sweeping, sweeping, sweeping. But he taught us, yes, to do the sweeping right, but think of that power that is allowing us to move our hands. If that's taken away, we won't be able to move our hands. We won't be able to walk. We won't be able to think. So it's God that we are dependent upon. Master taught us to work in that consciousness. My hands, my feet were made to work for thee. And feel when you're working. Don't talk. Just practice the presence of God while performing your duties. It's a marvelous experience. Master said, give everything to God. Give Him even the responsibility for your actions. Now, don't tell me that you're going to do something stupid and then say, well, the Lord is responsible. No, that's a misinterpretation of Master's words. He also gave us common sense, and He wants us to use that so that when we perform an action, it is based upon common sense. He wants you to make Him responsible, for He is the true doer of everything. You have attempted to rob Him both of the fruits of your actions and of the responsibility for performing them. That's why when I asked Master how to carry on all of these vast duties, he said 2 things. And there's not a day goes by that I don't remember them, not just remember them, but try to feel what they mean. Lord, Lord, Thou art the doer, not I. And to live that way, because when you do that, then you feel less the burden that you're carrying a whole organization, as an example, because you're really not. You're just helping the Lord carry it. You're doing your part. And the other one is, Lord, Thy will be done, never mine. Let your will be done. If I want this, that isn't important. It's what you want that I want to do, Lord. That's what I'm always saying to Him. I don't care what I want. I'm not important. What do you want? And if I ever am initiating my will, Lord, take it away from me. Disappoint me. Don't allow me to do my will. I want only to do your will. Don't be so attached to your own ideas, to your own desires, that you are determined that you're going to twist God's arm to do what you want Him to do, or to guide Him to tell you what you want to do. There's a danger in that. Guruji goes on to say, you say, I, morning, noon, and night, but who are you? Don't you know that only God exists? You are but His expression. That's beautiful to me. Only God exists, and every one of us is but His expression. Let it be an honest, sincere, truthful, humble expression. That's all. Let us each be a sweet, fragrant, understanding, willing, devoted, dedicated, intelligent, serving expression of God. And that covers everything. And we've got a big order, haven't we? Adopt a neutral attitude toward your life. Instead of creating more desires and becoming entangled in this cosmic dream, just say, Lord, you put me in this body. It is you who are dreaming my existence. All that I own and all that I am belong to you. That's a beautiful thought. In other words, when things get too rough for you, just think that way. Well, Lord, you gave me this responsibility. I'll do my best. But guide me. And while I'm doing it, Lord, don't let me forget you. Just let me cling to you. You know, the more difficulties we have in life, the more we do cling to God. It takes some people away from God, but don't let it. Hold to God. Just let go of everything else and hold to Him. What does it mean to perform all one's actions without looking for or desiring their fruits? This, a worldly man plants a flower seed and tends it lovingly. After long months of care, just as the flower begins to blossom, insects come along and destroy the plant. The man becomes angry or discouraged and throws up his gardening. The divine man, on the other hand, may tend the plant even more lovingly and with even greater care than the worldly man. But if insects destroy it, he says, Lord, I grew it for you. I will plant another seed. He doesn't grieve. He says, all right, I'll do it again. And I'll do it again and again and again and again. Why? Because I am not doing this for me. I am planting this and tending it lovingly for you. It doesn't matter how many plants die. Just one thing. I'll go on planting them. I go on caring for them. Guruji goes on to say, how wonderful it is to live that way. How wonderful to think, Lord, I am just living for you, and I am working for you. When you live that way, then the burden of your responsibilities is lightened, because you don't feel that the whole world and everything is resting on your shoulders. You feel that it's on His shoulders, and you are doing the best you can to help Him. Listen, if the Lord wanted, He could replace all of us with people far better than we. I often think of this. He has the power, if He decides that any of us is not doing very well, He can replace us and put someone else who can be much more efficient, much better than we. But He's given us this blessed opportunity to grow by carrying responsibilities and by performing these duties. It's we who should be grateful. It is we who should thank Him for letting us assume these responsibilities, for letting us help Him. Isn't that so? That's the right attitude to have. Not, oh Lord, I am doing so much for you. As Master used to say, don't ever give Divine Mother the impression that you're doing her a favor. That hit me very forcefully. Don't ever let Divine Mother think that you're doing her a favor by performing these duties. That sunk very deeply. And I never forgot that lesson. Because maybe sometimes that's one of our problems. We let her think, I'm working so hard for you, and I'm just wearing myself out, and I don't have time for you. And Lord, I'm just too busy for words. You know what's the best thing to do? Every day I say, Lord, thank you. Thank you. Doesn't matter what my pains are. It doesn't matter what my problems are. I thank you because, you see, I'm trying to get out of this delusion. I don't want to be caught up in delusion. I want to get out of it. I want to be free. And you get a little glimpse of that divine joy, that divine freedom, and it makes you want more of it. Yes, it doesn't mean you want to leave the world. It means you want to be free from the delusion that clutches at you and tries to hold you down to this little tiny fleshly cage, into these little tiny, narrow, small thoughts. I like to think big. I like to think vast thoughts. And once you get that glimpse, as Master would say, if you just once got a taste of that divine freedom, your heart and mind will race wanting to have it all the time. And that is true. It's so true. The more you meditate and become anchored in the consciousness of God, the less importance you will give to all of these externals. These problems will always be here. It's like trying to straighten out the pig's tail, as they say in India. It'll always curl back again. So in the same way, these problems will always come back. You get one problem straightened out and another one shows its ugly head. Get another problem straightened out, another one. That's part of life, and you can't escape it. What you have to do is learn, as Master used to say, when I don't like this world, I go into that other world. How often I think of that. When one gets fed up with this world, and we all do it now and then, just take your mind away from it. Now, that doesn't mean you walk away from your duties, but mentally you can divorce yourself from them for a little while and recharge yourselves and then get back into it again. So I think we should be very thankful. It doesn't matter what our troubles, what our problems are. We can face them. We can face them together because we're all united in that divine thought of devotion to God and the desire to find Him and the desire to help others find Him through this teaching. So let us never be dismayed or discouraged. Yes, I admit there are times when you want to throw in the towel. Is that it? Sponge. Oh, that's what you throw in. But always pick yourself up and say it doesn't matter. When the Lord has decided that I should have a breathing spell, He'll give it to me. That's the right spirit, right attitude. Everything I do, said Guruji, I do only for God. In that way, karma can never touch you. In that way, you become a true karma yogi. So, my dears, does that answer your question? Sure, you'd like a pat answer that you take 2 teaspoons of this and 1 tablespoon of that and this, that, and the other thing, and this is a recipe. But that isn't the way it works. Each person has to find that way in his own consciousness which gives him that balance between work and meditation. But I tell you one thing, those devotees who bypass meditation, gradually they lose the desire for God. That's why I'm trying to tell you all again and again. I'm pleading with you all for your own spiritual well-being. You can't find God without meditation. And you cannot find happiness without meditation. And work alone will not take the place of meditation. There must be time for meditation. And that is the struggle that you have to make between your activities and your contemplation upon God. But once you make up your mind that this hour is for this, these hours are for this, then you will find it much easier. And once you make up your mind that not only do I meditate at a specified hour, but I carry my meditation over into all of my activities, practicing these ideals of a karma yogi, then you come to the point where you find that your whole day is one long stream of meditation, whether you are in meditation or whether you are working. There is an unbroken flow of the consciousness of God. But that does not come only by working. It only comes if you make time for meditation, and if in your meditations you are not sleeping, but you are really meditating. Then you know. Then you come to that state that Guruji speaks about. One thing I plead with you all, try to overcome sleep in meditation. Don't let that continue through the years. Because once it takes hold of you, then you might as well say goodbye, God. Because that habit will become so strongly ingrained in your consciousness that it's very difficult to overcome. If you meditate, let it be deep. If you don't do that, it means your attention is not deep enough and it is not riveted enough on, for instance, the Hong Sa technique. I've been through the battle. I knew what it's like. And it was a real struggle for a while, especially because we weren't getting a lot of sleep in those days. But you know you can overcome it if you make up your mind. It's this willpower, it's a determination that is necessary. Exercise before you meditate if necessary, so that you fill your lungs with lots of fresh air. And if you find yourself getting sleepy like this when you're meditating, pull yourself back and put your mind back on Hong Sa. Nowadays, when I practice the Hong Sa, almost immediately the breath becomes calm and the mind becomes calm. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Because when you have lots of responsibilities, if you can just take your mind within and just rest in that, and you suddenly begin to feel that peace, it's wonderful. And it helps to give that balance that we need in performing our duties. I think that's one of the things that helps you to keep your equilibrium, that technique. Keeps you from getting uptight. It's very soothing, it's very calming. It's marvelous. And as time goes on, as you practice, those moments of utter stillness become longer. I think the whole world should be practicing Hong Sa. We'd have less problems in this world. Keep your mind always here. How many times I can remember going into Master's rooms and we might be excited about something or distressed about something. This is something that he taught us to practice all the time. He'd say, why don't you just keep your mind here? Oh, how often I've heard him say that. Keep your mind just here. So that we develop the habit of always letting our consciousness, our thought rest here, whenever we're not doing anything or our minds and bodies aren't involved in something. I find, for instance, that my mind is always here, but it's because He trained us that way. This is the center of thought. And we just let our minds rest there. Practice the presence of God. As Guruji said, when you begin your work, just think of God. Now, I don't mean just to light off the top of the head thinking of God. Really sit for a few moments before you go out your door and say, Lord, let me be with you this day. Let me see how much I can carry you in my thoughts and into my work this day. And then plunge into your work and do it with joy. Do it with enthusiasm. You're doing this for God, whatever it is. Do it for the joy of doing. And then at noon, take a little time again to deeply think of God. And then go back to your work. It can be done. I know it can because I've proven it in my own life. But the point is that sometimes the thinking of God is too shallow. Do you understand that point? It's too shallow. It's just off the top of the head. Just like, oh Lord, I'm thinking of you now bless me. Now I got to go. Not that way. It's got to be a deep feeling of, I love you, God. I want only you. Look, I have all these duties, but you know that they have no meaning for me except that I am striving to do your will. I don't want anything but you. I just want to please you. If you ask me to scrub the floors, I'll do it. If you ask me to do anything, I am here to do it. That's my joy. It is possible to develop that consciousness and to find joy in that consciousness. And it doesn't make you dull-minded. You become extremely creative. All your thoughts are filled with the energy of God, with the wisdom of God. There's a very creative state of consciousness. So try it. Always remember this, God is watching the heart. No matter what your outward activity is, if you are doing things for God with an unwilling attitude, the Lord knows it, and He will never come. He says, you are not ready for me yet. You have to develop a yearning. You have to develop a devotion for God. That comes, but it will never come if you don't meditate. Any more than you will never be able to play Rachmaninoff. You will never be able to if you don't learn to play the piano. So you'll never be able to experience the communion with God if you don't devote time to Him in meditation. That's the point. In the beginning, it's difficult for an individual to do. He finds it difficult. But that's why the Master used to say it's important. You can't get anywhere if you are spasmodic in your practice of the techniques. You just can't. And that's why it's so important for you to come together in groups for meditation. Those are the times when you have the opportunity to meditate in groups, each helping the other along the way. You know and I know that when you sit to meditate, many of you are not really meditating deeply. Why? Because your will is not strong enough for you to sit there long enough to get results. Because it takes a long time to cultivate habits of meditation. You've never done it in your life before. You need to be surrounded. Why do you suppose Christ said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name? He could have very easily said, each of you go to your rooms and meditate. I'll be with you. Why do you suppose Master's Guru said to him, surround yourself with a few and meditate? Very same principle. He was setting a pattern. The group meditation strengthens the individual. When you're in meditation with other devotees, you don't know how much you help one another. It gives you strength. There is a vibration that is created, and that strengthens and supports and encourages each one. So when you sit to meditate, just remember this. Any other questions? Yes.
Willpower, you mentioned that as a very important point.
No, it is.
And we know how to develop it because Master says do small things first. Do you have anything to say on that?
Yes, I'll tell you. It is essential. First of all, when you make up your mind to do a thing, sit and think about it and the importance of doing it, because you first got to be convinced that it's important. And then having thought about it, make up your mind you're going to do it. Now, the moment you plan to do it, there are going to be endless things that stand in your way. And you're going to say, oh, I'm not going to bother. I'll give you an example. Not one day have I missed exercise in years, even if it's raining, no matter what time of day or night it is. I had to cultivate that because basically I'm rather sedentary. I'm not a very athletic type of person. And it's with so many responsibilities, it's so easy to forget it. But I made up my mind that I was not going to miss it. And there have been endless times when I thought, oh, but you're so weary, and you really aren't feeling well, and you really should just go and lie down. The moment that thought comes, because I know that's delusion, I throw it out. Do not allow yourself to entertain that second negative thought. Act at once. It's when you say, I'm going to do that, and then you sit for a few minutes and you begin to allow those thoughts that are trying to justify all of your reasons for not doing that thing. That's when delusion gets a firm grip on you. The moment you think it, do it. That's the way I helped myself, in other words, and I think it's a very important way. Same with meditation. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I'll wake up, and if I can't sleep, the first thought, because of habit, why don't you meditate? It's been very easy to say, oh, well, I don't really feel, let me just try to sleep. I won't let myself have that thought. The moment it says, why don't you meditate, I say, okay, now it's habit. The habit is established, so there's no problem. You have to realize, just as you have established bad habits, it's just as easy to establish good habits. The problem is that you gave those bad actions attention and they became habits. Now you have to give equal attention to good thoughts, good ideas, until they become good habits. But this is marvelous training. First, make up your mind. Don't try to do this in lots of areas, because then you might get discouraged. Take one thing that you want to overcome and say, okay, this I'm going to do. And every time that second thought of delusion comes in, oh, well, don't do it today, start in tomorrow, throw it out. Act at that moment so that you do not allow that thought to take hold of your consciousness. Try it, it works. You know, we're taught to introspect, and that is a very good thing, and it's, as you all know, that is the very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the scriptures that we follow. Gathered together, our good and our bad tendencies, what did they this day? In other words, let's introspect. But in doing so, when we dwell so much on all of our flaws that we're plunged into depression or into such feelings of guilt that we begin to hate ourselves, then it is wrong, and this is the misuse and the abuse of introspection. And this is a point that I want to stress to you all very much. There isn't anything that any one of us has done that is not forgiven by God. It makes no difference what it is that you've done. And there's nothing that you've ever done that sometime all of us haven't done in some life. And not only that, but there is nothing that you've ever done that was not already thought of by God, or you couldn't have done it in the first place. In other words, don't dwell so much on your flaws to the point where you begin to dislike yourself. The first and most important thing in introspecting is to say, well, let me see now, this is wrong with me, that's wrong with me. I must try to change that. But don't dwell on what you feel are the sins you've committed in the past. They're not part of you now, and that's something Master very much stressed to us. What you've done, it doesn't belong to you anymore. Forget it. And that can be borne out further by what Christ said, thy sins are forgiven. Forget them, in other words. God has already forgiven you for them. But then he said, don't do it anymore. Don't do it again. Hold to that thought. And learn to like yourself. Now, this has nothing to do with the ego. Learn to like yourselves more. This notion that some have that I am so unworthy, and they dwell so much on feeling unworthy that their minds are not thinking about loving God or cultivating love for God or meditating deeply. All they're thinking about is, I'm just not worthy. That's terrible, terrible pitfall to fall into. We're all worthy. We're all here. We're all God's children, and we all have the right, the privilege, and the opportunity to seek God. Do it. And don't dwell on the thought, I'm not fit to seek God. Some have that notion. And it's harmful in the sense that you waste so much time in useless wallowing in self-pity. And it's an unconscious excuse for not seeking God more earnestly. Isn't that so? I am so unworthy and I'm not fit to seek God, and therefore God doesn't really want me very much because I'm not such a good, nice person. Those are weak excuses, and unconsciously one is saying, and besides that, I don't really want Him that much. So it's convenient to dwell on all my flaws in order to justify my not seeking Him more earnestly. Forget your flaws in the sense that they're in the past. Don't dwell on them anymore. Take each day as it comes. I often remember what someone said. Each day is like fresh writing paper. Clear writing paper. And you have the freedom and the marvelous opportunity every day to write afresh on that writing paper. Let it be constructive thoughts. Let it be beautiful thoughts. Let it be thoughts that are creative and are contributing to your own spiritual well-being and that of others. And don't dwell on the past. If we do that, we never find God. So get rid of those kinds of thoughts. Learn to like yourself. The more you learn to put your mind in God and dwell less on yourself and all your flaws, the more you will be in tune with God and Guru. I told you a little bit about the wonderful experience I had, and I think some of these experiences were simply to help me grow in understanding so that maybe somehow I could help you all. But when I was meditating and inwardly crying to Divine Mother, I was busy pointing out to the Lord all my flaws. And then this beautiful experience came to me. Let me ask you just one thing. Do you love me? Do you love me? And when that thought filled my consciousness, I burst into tears and said, Divine Mother, that's all I have to offer you. I am nothing, and I have nothing. No special qualities to offer, but I know one thing, I love you. And in this life, I am trying to cultivate ever-increasing love for you. And with that, it was so beautiful. The experience was so beautiful. That's enough. That's all I ask. And from that day to this, that's the only quality I have really concentrated on. I know I'm not perfect. I only know that that is what I am trying to perfect in this life. And I haven't got any time to think about all my flaws. I'll try to write a fresh, positive thought and perform fresh, positive actions every day of my life to the best of my ability, but having time to dwell on whether I am fit to seek God or not. I'm doing it. So please, all of you who have those kinds of thoughts that I am unworthy, please dismiss them from your mind. They cultivate and encourage greater spiritual weakness. Don't dwell on them. Your past doesn't belong to any of you. Only the present and the future belong to you. Write fresh thoughts and new and wholesome actions on the pages of your life that are left before you. That's the important thing to remember. All right, let us just concentrate now upon practicing the Hong Sa. Let us devote this time for that practice. Mentally affirm over and over with ever increasing feeling and attention, Lord, reveal thyself. Say it with deepening attention over and over again. One thing Master used to say to us frequently, learn to live more an interior life. Cultivate more of that interiorization of your mind, that when you've finished your activities of the day, that you learn to live more in that thought of God. Interiorize your consciousness. And you'll find that the more you do that, you will find it opens up a whole new world that is far more interesting than this one in which we live. As Guruji would say, that is where God and the angels reside. And you won't know what it is unless and until you strive through meditation to go deeper and deeper. He would say, let each day's meditation be deeper than that of the previous day. You have to ask yourself, am I doing that? Am I accomplishing that? Deeper means simply one thing, that when you meditate, your mind becomes much more concentrated, much more on fire to experience that divine state. That's the natural state of your soul. That's the natural state of your being. We are living just on the surface of life unless and until we draw closer to God. And it is only then that we really know what life is and what we are. Heavenly Father, Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Bhagavan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, Blessed Gurudev, Paramahansaji, saints of all religions, we bow to you all. Divine Mother, bless my life, that I may practice that evenness of mind in the midst of all my activities. Teach me to be calmly active and actively calm. Prince of Peace, sitting on the throne of poise, directing the kingdom of activity. Bless me, O Mother, that I may never lose sight of Thee and stir within me ever-increasing yearning to know Thee, to love Thee, to serve Thee. Om Shanti, Shanti. Amen. Master bless us all.